Who are next NBA stars? James Harden. To ride trade wave, Jimmy Butler, Chris Paul, and Paul George are patience zero for the trade epidemic that has rocked the NBA the past 2 years. Following look at the list. It doesn't even who's got next. The next collective bargaining agreement, the current is up after the 2023-24 season, must limit player movement, or else small market teams will have even more trouble retaining top-end talent, and the league may start to lose fans as the concept of loyalty and rooting for a team will lose its meaning if most star players are constantly changing teams. The NBA could tinker with NFL-like franchise tags as a mutually beneficial way for a team to hold on to a player for an extra season or two while paying the player the 1-year equivalent of a max contract. The NBA could, finally, along the same lines, the NBA could create, like in the mills, and allow teams to pay a supermax player an uncapped amount of money, but only have it count toward the team's salary cap as a max slot. This way, whatever the NBA and NBA Players Association agree upon, much of those negotiations will depend on whether players continue to demand trades at an alarming rate, as they have the past 2 years. The following is a note for the purposes of this exercise. We are not considering Giannis Antetokounmpo, who will be an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2021. Let's hope for the good. Bradley Beal. Washington Wizards get ready for this one to start heating up soon if Beal does not agree to the 3-year, $111M extension that is apparently on the table in Washington. As Candace Buckner, Karl-Anthony Towns, Minnesota Timberwolves. In the past, the idea of Towns demanding a trade in year 1 of a 5-year max extension would be preposterous. Not in today's expect Towns to keep quiet this year and give coach Ryan Saunders time to install his system and team president Gerson Rosas time to make a couple of moves. D'Angelo Russell? If Towns does, Devin Booker, Phoenix Suns. Booker, Cat's teammate from Kentucky, has a nearly identical case to demand a trade as Towns. The Suns are probably Brandon Ingram or Lonzo Ball. New Orleans Pelicans, with Executive VP of Basketball Ops David Griffin calling the Pelicans Jrue Holiday's team, Zion Williamson presumably requiring plenty of touches on offense as the franchise centerpiece, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker flashing the ability to be a strong playmaker in the summer league. One of these skilled former Lakers is going to be odd man out. Ingram, who looked on the other hand, if Ingram excels alongside Holiday and Williamson, Ball will need to learn to knock down open three-pointers 31.5% from 3 in his career to provide adequate spacing for his teammates. We know how good James Harden, Houston Rockets. This one might come as an absolute shock. However, the honorable mentions: Ben Simmons, Philadelphia 76 ers Alt-Hawk. He just signed a 5-year, $170M Supermax extension. He's still the fall man if his partnership with Joel Embiid doesn't succeed. He might decide. Jaylen Brown, Boston Celtics. Despite being arguably a better player and prospect, he must deal with Jason Tatum being Boston's favorite son. At some point, Draymond Green, Golden State Warriors. If the Warriors run into more injury problems, this season might amount to a gap year in the Splash Brothers dynasty. If Draymond another
raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up.